Introduce yourself. Got to lit a fire. You have all the reason to begin again. Honor this desire. Do you hear the call? Coiling the wire. You have all the reason to begin again. Honor this desire. I have found the catalyst, and I have found the catalyst in you. Understand yourself. This is not a test. You have all the reason to begin again. Honor this request. Do you wait for love? Put your acquiesce. You have all the reason to begin again. Honor this request. I have found the catalyst, and I have found the catalyst.
All right, that is the Catalyst. St. Ricketts at www.stricketts.com. It is the theme song to the new and improved Wednesday night Yo 2.0. Yo.
Yo.
There you go, my man, getting in the house. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Yo 2.0. Of course, the brother show or sister show or whatever you want to call it of the Yo Show. I am Jeff the Shark Perini. I am so excited tonight for this one because one of my absolute favorite is in the house. Great co-host, great hockey guy. We're going to talk a little NHL tonight. He's the one and only Mark Zimmaro. Mark, good evening. Welcome to the hot seat, my friend.
Thank you for having me, Jeff. Always great to come on and talk hockey and other nonsense.
Absolutely, I agree. There is yours truly, Joe. Hey, good seeing you. Thanks for checking it out. Joe's going to be co-hosting with me in a few weeks when we have Paul Scardino on and his massive Funko Pop collection. She's a Funko Pop collector like me. Calls herself a big nerd, but she kicks ass. We can't wait for that. But tonight we're going to do we're doing the guy thing, man. We're talking hockey with Mark because, as you know, he's the hockey guru. You can see the lineups. Our special guest tonight, we got another special guest coming on 8:30. Filmmaker David Rosenberg, the brand new film, The Reunion movie. Great story behind that, Mark. Really excited to talk to David about this movie, the creativity of it, and New York City. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of writing about movie stars and movie critics and, producers, all that stuff for my job at the South Philly Review. So it's nice to get a guy on here live and kind of pick his brain a little bit about, how he makes these things.
Totally agreed, 110%. Let's say hello to one of our great fans, one and only Nachus, all the way from Argentina. Nachus, this is Mark. He knows all about American hockey. He knows much about hockey as I do beer. So you can imagine what we're in for tonight.
It's a lot. And by the way, to add to your collection behind you, I do have a couple hockey Funko Pops. They're not in the packages still, but I have Marc-Andre Fleury from the used to be on the Golden Knights. He just got signed by the Chicago Blackhawks, and then the recently retired Pekine from the Nashville Predators. Wow. Both goalies.
That's sweet.
That's all I got, though. Only two.
That's all right. I mean, someday you'll work your way up to a couple hundred like me, and you end up divorced like I will soon. Everybody be happy. It's just crazy, man. It just snowballs. And I know you're big into hockey. I got a couple hockey back here. I think they're right behind me, as a matter of fact. A little off to the side. It's hard to do it backwards. There's Nathan McKinnon, Nikita Kucherov. Okay. That's all I have. I have two hockey ones. But I'm a fan. So the last 2 years I've advertised, you have picked the Stanley Cup winner the last 2 years on our program.
I think I did. I don't know if I did it last year. Did I?
Last year you picked Tampa. Last year,
I at least had. I think I had them in the finals. I'm not sure if I had them winning it, but the year before, I know I did. but
You
I
pretty
really
picked
liked
St.
Colorado
Louis.
last year.
So did I. God,
That's
I
what it
don't
was.
understand.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't
What happened
think
there?
I don't think I was on last year. I think it was the 2 years before that. So yeah.
Okay. All I know is, and I cracked a joke about it last night again. Every time you come on, Jewel is not here. I don't know. Maybe the two of you are like got this little weird thing I don't know about, but the two of you never managed to make it on at the same time. But we love having you. Your hockey knowledge is great. Your delivery is great, and you've done hockey shows. Like I said, SouthPhillyReview.com. You can check out Mark's articles there, SouthPhillyReview.com. Mark follows and covers the Flyers for that website, writes tremendous articles. Before we get anywhere, I know the fans are waiting for all different kind of stuff. But give us the lowdown. I got all my Flyers gear on tonight. Give us the lowdown of the Flyers off season and what we can expect coming into this season.
Oh, let's start heavy, I guess.
Yeah, let's go right for it.
That is a loaded question because the Flyers made a ton of moves in the offseason because let's face it, last season was a disaster. I mean, it was a 56-game season. They were expected to take a step forward, make the playoffs again. They didn't. So the axe dropped. I mean, they got rid of Jake Voracek and Shane Gostisbehere, Brian Elliott, other guys that have been here a long time. They got rid of Nolan Patrick, the number 2 overall pick from a few years ago. I mean, they showed they meant business. They wanted a shakeup. So they bring in a lot of players this year that are known to be character guys. Some grit. You hate to use that word with the mascot these days, but
Yeah.
but a lot of veteran experience. And I think the main goal is they want to shore up things in front of Carter Hart, who had a bad season last year. There's no way around it. And hope that can bring him back to the good goalie that he is. And there's a lot of hope that some of the guys they brought in are just going to do better just because they're in a better place. And I don't know yet. I mean, it's really a loaded question to see how they're going to do this year because, man, there are so many question marks. But you know what? For people like me that were just tired of seeing the same product rolled out your pace, it's going to happen.
Yeah, it gets tiring after a while. I mean, and I was going to do a love-hate thing with you, but I know it's tough. I was going to do a love-hate with some of the players. You know what? Let's just bag that. Jake Voracek, I think, is a terrific talent whose time has just run out here. And maybe it's just not the right players, and maybe he's tired of the situation. And then you mentioned Gostisbehere. Hey, you got rid of him for nothing, but maybe you had to. Like, there's bold moves that had to be made. I still think there's more to be made. Get rid of Patrick Hurt. But like you said, man, running out the same product does not work in this town.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting as you get, not to skip ahead, but as we get to the offseason next year, because this year could all determine what happens with Claude Giroux. He's on the last year of his contract. He's an unrestricted free agent. They can't trade him at the deadline unless he agrees to it because he's a no movement clause. So they're probably going to just see how this year goes. They could have extended him by now and they didn't. So, I think there's a waiting game to see if they're really going to turn this franchise on its head because I believe he's the longest tenured athlete in Philadelphia of all the 4 major sports. Wow. And I believe he's the longest tenured captain of the Flyers ever. So, I mean, there's a lot at stake there. There's, he's creeping up on 1,000 games and there's a lot of things that I'm sure he wants to stay here, but I don't know if they have another disaster. I don't know that you can keep him here, even though he's a big talent. And he's still a good player, but it just might be more of that facelift that they need, to just turn the corner of this last decade of mediocrity, which is just been so bad.
It is sheer mediocrity. I know you're mostly a hockey guy, but I know you watch some of the other sports too. Compare Claude Giroux to another athlete in this town as far as the expectation and the leadership that wasn't quite there and not winning a championship on this guy. Does anybody come to mind? Don't say Lindros. Don't break my heart.
Yeah, no. I mean, if I'm going to go a different sport, I don't know. Off the top of my head, maybe I say Donovan McNabb.
Wow. Okay, that's good. Yeah.
He was, you look to your quarterback to be a leader, and he got them close. As Giroux wasn't the captain when the Flyers got to the Stanley Cup final in 2010, but he was on the team. But Yeah, it's kind of that guy that gets you close, but then he leaves you wanting a little bit more from the leadership standpoint and that like rah rah sort of thing. But both guys were kind of just leaders by example. So I don't know. Maybe he's the guy that comes to mind.
I like that. Our man Jason Osada in the house. What's up, man? Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking out Mark. And Mark, I'm telling you, man, I just love the hockey stuff. I love the hockey preview. I got my Stanley Cup mug, out ready tonight, filled, of course, with Loso beer, the Brownsville Bonfire Ale from Loso. So I'm double dipping. I got a little hockey going on, got a little Loso beer going on. So you mentioned the team in front of him, Carter Hart. Bad habits developed last year? Or you think he's a good kid with a smart head that can bounce back with a stronger defense?
I think he bounces back. I think, we talk about last season being a season, but it really wasn't. It was 56 games. Hart only played in 27 of them total.
Wow.
I think he started 25. So, 27 games, that's a third of a season that we're judging this guy on. Before that, the last 2 seasons, he was great. So,
yeah.
Sometimes you have a rough season here. You can't get out of the rough patch, and he didn't. And they were wise to kind of shut him down at the end of the year. And he's back. He's one of those guys that is in a good mental space most of the time. He's a tough kid. He's got the pedigree of being a good player and a clutch player in the past. He's won at the World Junior Championships. He's had, I don't know about team success, but he was voted best goalie of Canadian juniors, the 3 leagues up there for a couple years straight. So, I mean, he certainly has the pedigree and the skill to come back and be a great player. It's just, I think his confidence was a little bit shot last year because, I mean, when you're a goalie and your defense isn't playing well in front of you, you try to overextend yourself a little bit, try to make that hero save, and you get fried doing it sometimes. So I think he does come back with a very good season this year because it can't get much worse. He had. I was writing about this today just to give myself a little bit of a plug. We have I think it's like an 8-page pullout coming in the South Philly Review and the Northeast Times next week. So I was doing some stat research, and out of all the goalies that played at least, I think, 17 games last year, Carter Hart had the worst save percentage out of all of them, and that was 54th in the entire league.
Wow.
But the thing that makes you think maybe it's not just him is Brian Elliott was number 53. So, I mean, what's the common thread there? It's the guys.
That's like the reverse of what's the trophy? The Jennings trophy. Is that like the reverse Jennings?
Pretty much, yeah.
It's the Bizarro Jennings Award goes to the Flyers last year. The question I ask, and I ask a guy like you because you follow hockey so closely, you write about it and all. In your opinion, which I know it might be a tough question, what happened between 2 years ago at the bubble when they seemed to be in such good spirits before dropping that series of the Islanders? They seemed to be on fire on all cylinders. What happened between that team and the team that came back this past year?
I think the bubble was a little bit of a mirage. I think, not every team was exactly having their A game up there. And then, the Flyers were hot before that break. So that's what you like to see. But then once they got there, I mean, they had those 3 like round robin games where they won them all, but what was really at stake there? So
right.
Then they play the Montreal Canadiens that were the 24th seed basically, and they squeaked by and then pretty much got blown out by the Islanders. Even though it went a long series, they looked terrible in the games they lost.
Yeah.
They even looked bad in some of the ones they won. So I don't think they were as good as the number 1 seed that they had there. So I think a lot got exposed there, and a stale product. A lot of people will blame when Matt Niskanen suddenly retired. It left a big hole on the top pairing. They had to shift guys up the lineup that weren't really ready to do that or just aren't good enough to do it. And it created a lot of havoc in their own zone.
Obviously, it looks sloppy. The Islanders series looked terrible. But I don't know. Like I got faith. I watch. I park myself in front of the TV, and I'm expecting a good year. Hopefully, a better year. They said a lot of moves were made. Talk to us a little bit about the Voracek trade, what we got in return. Introduce the fans who watched live or watched the replay later, who we got in return, because you know all about these guys. And everybody's like, good, Voracek's out here. What do we get in return?
Well, I was one of those guys that I was happy to see Voracek be traded. Just, he produces a lot of points, but
it's in our text messages. I asked you a while back how happy we were to see Voracek come. Yeah.
I mean, nothing against the guy. I mean, he was actually kind of fun in the media because he told it as it was, Yeah. But they did need a little bit of a change, and they had too many guys that are pass first kind of guys. And in exchange, they bring back Cam Atkinson from the Columbus Blue Jackets, who is a shoot first kind of guy. And just 3 years ago, Cam Atkinson had 41 goals. I mean, I'll put you on the spot here, Jeff. You know who the last guy was to score 40 goals for the Flyers?
Ooh, that is on the spot. Oh my God. I'm going to say John LeClaire.
No, it was a little bit more recent than that, but it was Jeff Carter, and that was.
Oh right, okay.
That was like 2011 or something, 2010, right around there. So, I mean, it's been a long time.
Who says boozing and womanizing doesn't pay off?
Jay Osada got the answer right there.
He wins the trivia. He wins the prize. He wins what I've been giving out lately on Yo 2.0 is signed empty beer cans. You'll get an autographed empty beer can signed by me and Mark. Congratulations. Thanks for playing. But
I mean, I'm not saying that Cam Atkinson's going to score 40 goals this year. He's not, because he's not going to be on the top line. He might not even be on the top power play. But I mean, this is a guy that'll probably score 25, and hey, that was like tops, like that type of pace for anybody last year. I think Farabee led the team. Again, it was a shortened season, but he only had 20. So, you prorate that a little bit, maybe ends up with 27, 28, something like that. But hey, a guy that can pot like 25 goals is just great. And he's not a one-trick pony like a James Van Riemsdyk kind of is. It's like, Atkinson, he gets short-handed goals too. He can play on the power play or anywhere in lineup. So, I mean, he's a valuable guy. I want to say he's roughly the same age as Voracek, maybe a year older, but it's a little bit less of a cap hit too, if you're looking at that. So, I mean, the main problem people had with Jake Voracek wasn't the amount of points he produced; it was the amount he was paid for doing what he did. And it was just he got paid too much. And unfortunately, in a league that relies so heavily on a salary cap, that was a big thing.
You've seen it you see it a lot in Philadelphia, and I know you're not as much of a basketball guy, but as a sports guy, give me a little something on the Ben Simmons situation. Is this just sickening? Is this the most sickening situation we've ever seen in a contract and a player?
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit I'm not a huge basketball fan, at least not pro. I watched a little bit of college, a lot of high school actually, because that was my former job. But yeah, I mean, you can't help but pay attention to that if you're a fan or not, and it's saddening really when you get a guy as talented as he is that just doesn't get it, I guess is the best way to put it. Like, he just never seemed to really understand the city of Philadelphia and what they want out of him. And I don't know. I guess we'll wait and see what they get in a trade or whatever happens. But man, it is really disappointing because it really did feel like the Sixers had something special there.
I agree. And I believed in this team. Shout out to our man, Andrew James Blinder, terrific actor and filmmaker, creator. Jeff and Mark, happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Yo Show. Thank you, dude. He's an awesome individual. We'll have him back on our program soon. So thank you, and thanks for welcoming Mark. Yeah, I wanted to believe in the Sixers, and I became a big basketball fan. A lot of people said we cheated our way through this process, and we tanked, and whatever it was. I mean, to see Embiid and Simmons, and you're like, we got something. It all started fading away, I guess, around the time they drafted Markelle Fultz, and then the perception of Philly, and it all just kind of decayed, which was terrible. It's a shame. But, for my money, Philly fans can survive without a good basketball team as long as we have a good hockey team. So it's important to get this Flyers team back on track.
Yeah, kind of getting on what you just said is the slap in the face is like, Philly has always been one of those towns that people seem to want to come and play for. And it seems like insulting when people don't want to be here, like,
Right.
I mean, the Flyers had been that destination for a long time, basically because they would just throw a ton of money at you before there was a salary cap. But it was a great atmosphere and place to play. And I don't know that it is anymore. That's probably a different topic for a different day, like with some more research. But there's a lot of things that go into why certain players play in different places, because in hockey, I mean, you got different countries, so you get paid a little bit differently, and there's state taxes, and I mean that works in all sports. But it's not exactly the most desirable place to play anymore, and that hurts.
It does. It hurts a lot, and the mystique of the Spectrum, people blame that. Like, the Spectrum was just such a special place, but I mean, Wells Fargo is to me as well. It's a terrific atmosphere, but is it coaching? Is it ownership? I don't know. Myself, I'm confused. And with the Sixers, I kind of get it. Basketball's kind of become a smug sport. Like everybody wants to play in the huge cities, the LAs and the New Yorks and stuff like that. And they all want to play with each other. Right. Yeah. They all want to play with the other big players and create a championship team. I don't know why it can't happen here. I mean, come here and build a champion. We'd like to have you.
Yeah, I know. And Embiid is so welcoming too. Like he seems like such a likable guy, and people would want to come here and play with him. But it just hasn't happened.
And you read the articles, you don't know what's true and false. And like I said, you writing, being a writer the way you do, and being in the media. I use media a lot of times as a dirty word. Mark is one of the class guys at the media outlet. Just get that straight here. Absolutely. Do you really think the fans and the media and what they say on social media really chase him away that bad? Is he that fragile?
In his case, yeah, I don't know if the case is that bad here. I think it would be the same anywhere else. But to your second point, maybe he is just that fragile. I mean, I know in hockey, those Canadian markets like Toronto, Montreal, they do chase players away because, I mean, they are just up your butt about everything, in your life, and there's no escaping anything. And it's tough to be under that scrutiny all the time where you could just play in a place like Florida and like nobody really cares, and it's easy going and it's warm out. And
what's up,
Frandor commenting there. That's my buddy Fran. Today is actually his birthday.
What's up, Fran? Happy birthday, man.
He's taking me off track here, but he was a big I don't know if he was a huge Islanders fan, but he really liked the Islanders as like a secondary team back in the day, and he was like the first guy to own this jersey, the
if you get
jersey.
Look at that is classic. Give us the name on the back, Mark.
Put that on for him.
Show the hockey junkies the name of the player on the back.
Oh yeah, it is good old Ziggy Palffy.
Now to me, that's freaking awesome, and I know we're Philly guys here, but I know Mark has a tremendous, tremendous collection. I started coming through mine. I found my old Canucks one. I got my old Oilers one. I see you got some Vegas there, and just the ugly.
Yeah, I was gonna put more thought into what went up there, and then I just kind of ran out of time. So I was like, well, whatever's up there is up there.
That's terrific. You always do a great job. I always love the layout. You always come prepared. This is kind of my preparation. Everybody's like, wow, Dick, do you set that up every show? I'm like, no, this is my basement. I lay down the desk that's now permanent. The computers are here. The microphone stays. My buddies come over to watch football on Sunday. Like, dude, can you get this out of the way? I'm like, no, I can't. That's it. That's where it stays.
That's part of the deal. When you come in, you deal with the surroundings.
Absolutely. So the fans want to know, how many jerseys do you have now?
A lot. I mean, I used to have one of every team, but now that the Seattle Kraken have entered, I do not have one of those yet. I'm not going to pay $200 for a jersey. I just don't. No. I find all these things on eBay or whatever. I'm sure some of them are knockoffs. I don't care as long as they look good. I probably have around 100.
Wow, That's crazy. It's like one for every Funko Pop. Well, there's a couple hundred of these Funko Pops. But I don't know. I bring you on. I call you the hockey expert. No Kraken jersey? Like, what's going on
Not
here?
yet. Nah, I'm
Not
just
yet.
wait until they come down in price. We'll see.
I know. It'll be there once they lose like 20 straight, I'm sure.
Yeah. Plus, I didn't know who to get. They didn't have an impressive draft as the Vegas Golden Knights did. There's
Sure.
not many. I don't know.
There's nobody.
Not many
great.
star players yet, so we'll see.
And even you said, like, when the Golden Knights, I mean, Marc-Andre Fleury, I guess, was a draw for people who are really interested in the jersey. And I don't know anybody on the Kraken who I'm paying $200 for. Nobody.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to talk a little bit more and a little bit about who you like in each division, conference, etc. Players. I mean, you name players. Like, it's just absolutely amazing. We'll get to that in a little bit. Let's talk about some stuff in your life. David Rosenberg will be joining us in a few minutes. So before he does, let's talk real quick, and if we get cut off, we'll go back to it. Let's talk about your new fatherhood, man. Congratulations. You're a dad now. How much that cutting the hockey time? Which jerseys are you wrapping them in to go to bed? Like, tell us the scoop, man.
Yeah, my son Joey was born exactly 3 months ago. So, he's at the quarter mark of his first year. He's as weird as it is. We watched the Flyers Bruins game the other night, the preseason game, and my wife dressed him in yellow, and he seemed to get, like, every time the Bruins had something going, his little hands were going up. So I don't know. I said if he starts speaking with a Boston accent, we're gonna have a DNA test and know what's going on with this. But he's got a few little Flyers onesies and stuff. He hasn't really grown into them yet, but he'll be there. We'll see. Fran's saying no. I agree. But as long as it's not a Penguins, I can probably deal with anything else and kind of bring them to the dark side of being a Flyers fan eventually.
I could deal with that as well. I mean, it's like your kid putting on a Cowboys jersey or a New York Mets jersey, something like that. Speaking of New York Mets, let's get to New York right now. A terrific New York filmmaker. The brand new movie is called The Reunion. Let's bring him in. Very excited to talk to him tonight, Mr. David Rosenberg, our special guest. Dave, good evening. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for having me, Jeff. Good to see you. Hi, Mark. How's it going?
It's going great.
Good. How are you?
Okay, Mark's a little glitch, but we're there. All right, so we got it. So, a New York guy talking New York with Philly guys. Any awkwardness or what?
No, man, it's all good.
That's awesome.
It's all good. Roll with the Flyers, Sixers. It's all good. I mean, I'm a Knicks fan, so it's sad times, but they're getting better little by little.
How was last night? Are you a Yankee guy or a Mets guy? How did last night hit you with the Red Sox taking out the Yankees?
Yeah, that's a rough one. I'm in LA now, so I'm not as I've been here for 10 years, so I'm not as big of a Yankees fan as I used to be. I mean, I went with my grandfather when I was 4, so I was entrenched as a baby. But I haven't been as into it lately. I was more, with the Jeter years, those World Series teams in the 90s. But I still like my Yankees, and it's always rough to lose to the Red Sox,
Absolutely. We feel it. Yeah. We're talking about all those.
I guess it washes off you a little bit if you move.
Yeah.
You're right, a little bit. I can, I still got the Dodgers I can root for. I can't call myself a Dodgers fan or a Lakers fan because my New York friends won't like that, but I can say I root for them.
Yeah.
Still a New York fan at heart.
Yeah,
works.
It's kind of like those other teams when yours is done. You go with the home, where you live, and have fun. I mean, that's where the party is anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
We're used to it. We adopt new teams out here every year because Philly don't win shit. So every year we're adopting somebody new.
Yeah, what's going on with the basketball team? Those guys can't get along.
It's ugly, man. Our guy Ben Simmons wants to be out west with you guys. He likes it out there. He's not.
Oh, really?
He loves it. He's an LA guy through and through. He asked to be traded to the Clippers or the Lakers. He's come right out and said it. So
interesting. I hadn't heard that. That's interesting.
At least that's what you're reading this media. This media really lets the guy have it. So let's talk about obviously congratulations on a brand new film. It's called The Reunion. Tell us a little something about the film, about the creative process, and what it's all about, because we're very excited to hear about it.
Yeah, so I was an actor in New York in my 20s. This is going back about 20 years ago. And a little bit after 9/11, I was doing a play called Hearts Beating Faster. And I produced it. I acted in it. Opening night, I went up on my lines, which means I forgot my lines.
Oh, jeez.
And it totally, it really messed up the play that night. It kind of devastated me, and it kind of asked me wondering, like, God, what happened? Like, I put everything into this, and then I just went up on my lines. And so it kind of sent me on this spiritual journey in Union Square in Manhattan, and I was spending my days reading books and meditating and experiencing all these wild coincidences, running into people in sort of interesting places and ways. And I saw my sort of childhood nemesis, who was part of this crew that had turned against me in middle school. And that was a really traumatic event in my life. Now I teach middle school, so I can see how like everything feels so big when you're in middle school. Wow. And it shook me up. So I told 2 of my actor friends, and one of them said, you have to confront this guy, or he's going to haunt you for the rest of your life. Because I literally had been having nightmares into my 20s about this person. Wow. And the other one said, one said you have to write about this, and the other one said you have to confront this guy. And so I kind of set about doing both. And I started writing this script about a guy who confronts his childhood nemesis at their high school reunion with my 2 buddies. And so the 3 of us were actors, and we ended up acting in it. But it took another 20 years to make it. So we wrote it for about 5 years, and then we parted ways. And then 10 years later, I came into some money and thought, this is the time. It's now or never. And so we ended up making it in 2019 in New York. So that's the short version.
Awesome.
Wow. How much money do you put into a movie like that?
It's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot. We don't talk specifically about the budget, but I'll say it's under $1 million, under $1 million, and more than 200,000. Put it that way.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty serious now. But like I said, a great story to tell and something that's real and inspirational, which is awesome. What first got you into acting, and from that part, what got you into filmmaking?
Interestingly enough, I was actually in sports broadcasting when I was in college at Hofstra. So it's interesting, like hanging with you guys. It's bringing me back, because I actually started a sports talk show called The Locker Room, which is still on Hofstra Radio, WRHU in Long Island. So I was doing that, and I wanted to go into sports broadcasting. I was getting my tape together, I was sending it out, and then I saw the movie Jerry Maguire. And it somehow inspired me to want to become an actor. I did like a monologue for a friend of mine. She's like, oh, you're really good. You should try acting. And I took an acting class on a lark in Long Island. And I kind of fell in love with it. It was like, am I going to go into acting, or am I going to do the radio thing? And I got a few parts on Long Island, and that led to like dinner theater for a year. And then I took classes in New York City, and, kind of the rest was history.
So you're a movie guy and a sports guy. So aside from Jerry Maguire, what are some of your other favorite sports movies? I know.
Oh man,
forever on this.
Yeah, absolutely. I could talk forever on both these topics. Good Will Hunting. Good Will Hunting changed my life. So Jerry Maguire got me into acting, and then I used to watch that like every night. And then when Almost Famous came out, which is the same director, Cameron Crowe, I used to watch that every night. Best movie about rock and roll of all time.
Oh yeah.
And then when I saw Good Will Hunting, I was just floored by it. I mean, there was nothing sort of all that out of the ordinary. It's about a guy and his friends, and and he turns out to be a genius. But there was something about the filmmaking and the acting and the writing in particular, that these guys had written it when they were 24, 25, that just really inspired me, and it inspired me to want to write something myself. And so that was one of the movies that inspired me to want to write this.
Yeah, it helps to have Robin Williams there, like at his peak. You can't really go wrong there.
This is true. Yes.
So, as a filmmaker, obviously the big movie here, Reunion, is about real life instances. Do you have creative flow from fantasy stories, or is everything that you like to write and come out is all about real life stuff?
I mean, I like to start with real life. You know what I mean? And I still consider myself more of an actor than a writer. I'm kind of an actor who writes, and I'm struggling to write another screenplay right now. But I like to start with something real and then kind of bring it out into not necessarily fantasy, but sort of just extrapolate on it. So I think something, if it's too real, it kind of becomes grating, and it kind of feels like therapy. I think you got to kind of like bring out the art in it. And so I think that's kind of what we try to do. So this isn't a biopic. A lot of these things happen, but not exactly the way that they happened in the movie. And so I think we were able to find the art in it, and yet still bring the truth of what we were trying to say.
Very cool.
how satisfied were you with the finished product? I mean, it's something like you're picking up from deep inside you and showing the world.
I think we were extremely satisfied. When me and my partner Andrea and our other partner Dan, when we would see some of the clips that our director would send us, we were so excited, and we just kept saying beyond our expectations. The way it was shot. I mean, it looks like a $2 million film. I mean, in my opinion, my humble opinion. But it was shot for like I said, under $1 million, and we were very happy. I mean, there's always there's always things that don't come out exactly as you expected, and then there are things that come out better than expected. I mean, there were certain scenes that didn't make it to the final film because they just didn't fit with the story once the film was made. But there were things in it that came out way better than we could have anticipated. So I think at the end of the day, I'm really happy about the film, and I'm really proud of it.
That's awesome. Congratulations with that. What are you watching now? What movies and TV shows do you watch now that you get into? Like, what's your style? What do you dig, and what are you into right? Because I know TV for me is so all over the board. I usually flip on whatever game's on and stick with that.
I know it's so different than when we were growing up, right? Like
Yeah.
that change from TV to internet now, where you can watch anything. It's so bizarre. You don't have the whole country watching one thing at the same time generally. I don't know.
I watch this a lot. I watch my replays a lot.
There you go. There you go. I watch my movie a lot. I was just turned on to Squid Game, and now it's pretty good. I like Reservation Dogs, which is like Native American story, which is like really kind of hip and it's got a good vibe. But I also watch a lot of sports. I like a lot of First Take. I watch a lot of First Take. Like those guys. There was, what was it? It's like a documentary about a basketball team and then a football team here in California. Last Chance U.
Yeah,
Okay.
I haven't seen that, but I've heard everybody raves about that.
Yeah, that's really good. Actually, the last good movie I saw was the Matt Damon movie. God, I'm forgetting the name, but the last Matt Damon movie I really enjoyed.
I'm drawing a
Yeah,
blank.
I know. I'm gonna look it up while you get Mark, hit him with a question, and I'll check that out.
Yeah.
All right. So you mentioned that the reunion's based on bullying, and that's a huge topic right now. I mean, what are some of the great support groups or charities people can reach out to, either for help or to contribute?
One charity that we linked up with is called Super Happy Healthy Kids, and it's a not-for-profit run by Esther Yang, who's a wonderful woman. She lives in New York, and we've done a few podcasts together. And so I would say check out their website, Super Happy Healthy Kids. I believe it's .org. Let me make sure right now. It's .com, superhappyhealthykids.com. And she does a great job working with kids, and they teach them like self-defense and stuff like that, but also just how to get along and communicate so it doesn't have to get to that level of bullying. We'd love to link up with more organizations as well. So if there are any organizations out there or people that know about organizations, you can go to our website, thereunionfilm.com. That's where we have all of our social media. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and then you can also send us an email about anything that you'd like.
That's awesome. I love when people, do a movie, but also have, a special cause in mind to really help things out. I mean, it's one thing just to make a piece of art, but to try to improve people's, lives. That's awesome.
And it's an interesting topic, and it's a topic that really requires communication because there's no right or wrong way necessarily to deal with things. I've heard people say, if you're getting bullied, just, punch them back in the face. You know what I mean? And I don't know the right way, and I teach middle school now. So I just try to be there for my kids. I just try to be kind and loving towards them. I try to be a good ear and listen to them when they're going through stuff and just try to, work things out when they come up. And sometimes you do have to stand up for yourself. But I think what I try not to do is become the thing that I don't like, and that's kind of what this movie's about. It's about a guy who sets off to confront his enemy basically, and it ends up sort of confronting something within himself. And I think we all struggle with that. How do you stand up for yourself without becoming violent, right? How do you not freeze, fight, or flight? You know what I mean? How do you communicate in a way that can be a win-win for both? And that's always a great topic because I don't know that there's one right answer.
Yeah, it's great. And it's huge right now because all over social media, you see a lot of back and forth typing fights, and we all get in those typing fights about opinions. And I'm like, man, just take 5 minutes, step back, look at what you're doing. Like you're on a phone on social media, just like ripping into a stranger, and it's just bizarre to me. So, a great message. Like just learn the higher road or the proper high road. You don't have to run away, but confront it in a proper manner. I think it's great that people get to hear that message. Um, so the Matt Damon was it Stillwater? Was that the last?
Stillwater.
Stillwater. Okay.
Yeah.
Did some quick research on my own intern. So.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's also a reference to Almost Famous. Stillwater was the name of the band in Almost Famous. So
Yes.
It's all full circle.
That's a terrific movie. So getting on to just filmmaking in general, any project, have you ever seen any project you're like, damn, I wish I made that movie, or damn, I want to make a movie kind of close to that? Any movie like really grab you and say, yeah, this is kind of what I'm looking for?
The movies that inspired us were the ones that were made by friends. So it was good. It was Good Will Hunting, but it was also Swingers. Swingers was a huge inspiration for me.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys made, their film in their 20s, and then Blind Spotting was a real inspiration for us as well. It's a lesser known film, but I think it's on par with those other films about two friends in Oakland, African American and a white guy who are friends and trying to figure out race and race relations in Oakland, and also involved a police shooting. So I thought that was an excellent film. And they inspired us too, because I don't think they were in their 20s anymore when they made it. So we were kind of like, can we still do this in our 40s? We were hanging out in New York and by Union Square in our 20s. We thought we'd make it then. And then two decades later, my buddy's got two kids, and my other buddy's been, working for a while as an actor, and I'm teaching kids in LA. And it's like, are we really going to do this? But yeah, wow. So those three for sure. Gosh. I love Paul Thomas Anderson's movies. Magnolia is, a great flick.
Yeah.
I love Scorsese as a director. I think we were also trying to make films that, were made in the 70s in New York. When you look at like films by Spike Lee and Woody Allen and Scorsese, we were trying to make a film that, would follow in those footsteps as well.
I know you love your own group of friends, but you talked about, groups of people making movies, by friends. Is there a certain group out there you wish you were kind of like, had an in with, make a movie with those guys? Or?
Oh, definitely. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. It looks like they got a movie coming out right now, The Last Duel. I'd love to work with them. Paul Thomas Anderson's director that works with a lot of the same people. I'd love to get in there. Wes Anderson as well, works with a lot of the same actors a lot of the time. So yeah, there's, if I ever got to that level where I was able to work with directors like that, that would, be incredible. Yeah, there's a movie called Good Time that was made by two brothers that went on to do the Adam Sandler film about the gambler like a year or two. Those guys I think are really talented. I'm forgetting their names as well, but
that'd probably be the group, like Adam Sandler's group. Like I'm talking like back when he was making like Happy Gilmore. It was just the same guys in every movie. Like they made such like, there were some classics in there, but there were a lot of bad movies too. And like, no, you could just tell he's just like, well, I need some guys. Come on in here and just be part of this. A little pain.
Yeah.
Whatever, it just seemed like they were having so much fun making these like wacky movies.
They're having a lot of fun and making a lot of money. For sure.
Yeah, but yeah, they're definitely making the money. I don't think they look at the budget the same way that some of us do. I get that. What's next? You got more projects on the horizon? You're looking to get into more acting? A little bit of both? Like,
definitely. We're still doing the festival circuit with the reunion. So we've been to 4 festivals. So we're going on our 4th festival.
Wow.
We just got into Soho, so we're really excited. We did New York Independent Film Festival. We actually just did NIAC, and we won Best Picture and Best Director, which is very exciting. And then we just found out that we got into Soho, so we're looking forward to that in November. Then we actually just got distribution. We linked up with a company called Gravitas Ventures, which have been around for a while, and they work with a lot of independent films. So we're really excited. So we'll be releasing the film in February. So I'm just working really hard with, our social media team and our publicity team just to get the word out there for the reunion. And then I'm working on a few other scripts right now myself. I'm about 60 pages into another script that I would love to make out here in Los Angeles, a few other scripts. And then I'm auditioning on top of teaching middle school. So I'm trying to keep a lot of balls up in the air right now.
That's amazing. Do your kids get into the fact that you're a movie maker, actor? Do your students get into that?
Yeah, but they also humble me. You know what I mean? Like in the beginning of the year, I showed them a clip and, oh my God, that's so cool. You're an actor, mister. But then, 3 weeks later they forget, and, they just want you to be there for them. And they'll humble me pretty quick, and they'll tell me what it is. They don't let me get too high on my, on my britches or what have you. Yeah, but I also do the drama club with them. So like, it's really exciting to see kids that have talent as actors, and we're working together to create a play. And I also teach a film class. We've linked up with an organization called YCP, Youth Cinema Project, which was founded by Edward James Olmos. And so the kids will be actually making films this year. They're actually just starting to write the films, and so they'll be doing what I'm doing, trying to get into festivals and learning about the process. And it's exciting for the kids because down the line they can get jobs. There's a lot of jobs in entertainment out here, in Hollywood. So it's exciting.
Great.
So I'm guessing when you're making.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I had a little
No,
delay there. When you were making this movie, I'm guessing you didn't have to like shut down parts of the city, because Adam Sandler, as we just talked about, is doing one here in Philly, and like there's just the city gets shut down when he films. It's crazy. Like that's.
I remember when they did Vanilla Sky and they shut down all of Times Square for Tom Cruise. That's like about the only person they're going to shut down Times Square for. But I thought it was really exciting. And I don't know if you guys saw Birdman, but they shot, I think one of the best movies ever made, actually. But they shot a clip in Times Square where they didn't shoot down Times Square. And I thought that was just as exciting. I was like, how did they shoot that? And I think, to a certain extent, there's similarity with the reunion. We shot in the middle of Union Square, which is not Times Square, but it's pretty well populated. And, we were able to do that. And New York was wonderful. The people were wonderful. The people that were driving in cars were wonderful. We were able to shoot in the Lower East Side with cars going by, and we just made it happen. It was exactly how I wanted to shoot the film. It was guerrilla style. We'd shoot like 4 or 5 scenes, each day. We shot 2 weeks. It was 16 days, 16-day shoot. And it was awesome. We had some cops that, were walking through when we were shooting in Union Square, and we were like, uh-oh, now we're going to get in trouble. And we had all the necessary permits, but the cops just hung out for like 2 hours and just watched. And, it was exciting because,
It's risky if you get that one idiot that like wants to be on camera and they start doing something dumb, and it's like your shot's ruined.
We had that actually in one of our scenes in the Lower East Side where me and my buddy are walking down. There's a guy just kind of going like this, and we kept it because it was our best take. And but it's one of those things.
I was going to ask that next. It's funny, me and Mark are on the same page. I was going to be like, do you ever have somebody really get out of line? Because I like to think that I'm a silly, wacky, funny person. I would definitely be that guy, making some kind of face or doing something dumb.
So I'm going to tell you this story, and I'm going to try to keep it as clean as possible.
Man, let it rip here. We're all friends here.
All right, so we're in the editing room. I'm with my editor in the editing room, and we're watching the last scene, which, as you can imagine, is an important scene. And I'm not going to say what it is; it's going to ruin the movie, but there's a guy in the background, and he might have been a homeless guy. I'm not sure. But he was standing next to a bike, and he just looked like he was just standing there. We didn't know what he was doing. We really didn't think much of it. And one day my editor says, hey, Dave, I want you to take a look at this because I think he's taking a piss. And I was like, no, that can't be possible. And he's like, no, I think that's what he's doing. And I was like, please don't tell me that, because I think that's the only shot that we have, and we need that. And there's just no way that that's possible. There's no way we can keep that if that's true. And he's like, yeah. And so we had to go into work with our VFX team, and we're trying to figure out, all right, how are we going to make this happen? Because I actually one day kind of zeroed in, like, because you can magnify things, as you know, with video, and there was something there that we can put on film. Put it that way. And
Needs to know that you used a magnifying glass on his area right now.
This poor guy.
oh, I wish it was his derriere.
Oh.
So we're trying to figure out how are we going to do that, and they were like, well, we can chop his legs off, or we could do this or that, and then we realized we could just take him out. We just took him out, and so that's kind of the magic.
Like took him out, or took
no, we didn't take him out, not like that. We just VFX'd him out of the movie, and unfortunately, he's not going to make the cut.
Oh, that poor guy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you know what happened? He would somehow see it and be looking for money out of it. So it's better we got rid of him.
Exactly.
That is nowadays. Everybody's got their hand in something nowadays. That's wild though, and it's funny how people just go off and live life right in the middle of filmmaking.
Yeah, he had no idea.
Have you ever? I know you're in LA. You've been in New York. Ever think about bringing your movies elsewhere? Like maybe try, I don't know, like Philadelphia?
I would love to. Actually, a friend of mine was just in Philly, and he was running up the Rocky Steps, and
awesome.
I never got to do that. But
it's exhausting, man. I got up like 6
really?
steps. I'm like,
no, I would love to shoot elsewhere. Absolutely. I mean, I would love to shoot in Philly. I'd love to shoot, anywhere in the country or outside. We were trying to make a short film in Costa Rica the last time I was there, and didn't pan out that time, but I'd love to do it again. Yeah, and I'm open to reading scripts that other people write. I just want to do something that that moves me, and then whether that's working with a particular person or or particular writing. I love great writing. So if there's anybody that has a great script out there, don't be afraid to email us. Check out thereunionfilm.com. Thank you for putting that on the bottom there. Appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. I try to run things for people to get into when they're watching, because we get a lot of people to watch live, a lot of people watch the replay, hundreds, thousands that'll check it out. So I want to make sure the reunion film gets its proper stay. Your PR people are terrific. They always do great work with us, and this has been really great talking to you and talking to somebody. We like independence. I know sometimes people say, who's going to be on? And I explain who they are, and then they watch like, wow, really amazing. So we love the independent people making their own way. Do you feel that social media really helps drive? Because social media gets a great rap and a bad rap. Some people say it's toxic, it's dangerous. But for people like us doing the show and somebody like you pushing the movie, how huge is social media?
I think it's huge. I mean, I think we'll find out more once we try to sell the film. And we're going to be doing like a pre-order on a particular site at some point in January. But it's been great. I mean, it's been great working with our social media team. We work with a social media team called Forge, Fourge, in Iowa. They actually were connected with our producer, Susan Garrell, who runs an amazing film festival in Iowa called the Julian Dubuque Film Festival, which was the first festival we went to. But they've been great. I mean, they're getting us out on Facebook. We're getting more and more fans every day, every month. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. Please come and check us out and share with all your people. And, let's have some fun. We've done contests where we're giving out posters. We talk about our, the festivals that we're doing. We have what's called a bully blog on our website where people could write in about their bully stories from the past, whether they've been bullied, whether they've been bullies, whether they've seen bullying, whether they still deal with different types of bullying, at work or what have you. There's been a lot of bullying in the political environment, in recent years, obviously. I try not to get too into it personally, just because it drives me crazy. I don't really do Facebook personally. I don't think I've ever sent a tweet myself. I don't do Instagram or any of that. It's just, I'm crazy enough. I just try to put it into my creative work. But I think, if I can use it for good, if I could use it to get the movie out, if I could use it for anything that's going to be beneficial, I think it's great. I just try not to let it drive me crazy.
Yeah, I mean, how tough is it I know you're still in the early stages of trying to sell the movie, but I mean, how tough is it to get that attention, or has anybody given you any tips on what to do? I mean, you said you have a lot of money invested in this, so I'm sure you really want to push it.
Yeah, I mean, if this is the only film that I ever make, that's fine. And I've just wanted to make it as good as possible. Like, for example, we just had, our songs, which we got some pretty good songs in the movie, were going to cost us $155,000. And we were able to get it down to about $50,000. and that was great, but I wanted to spend that money because I really, believe in this movie, and I want it to do well, and I want people to see it. I want people to love it. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to put it out on social media. We'll see what Gravitas could do. I'm really excited about what they can do, getting us onto different platforms, hopefully platforms like Hulu and, I don't know about Netflix. Hopefully, that's the big hope. But we'll see what we'll be able to get on. And then we're going to do a theatrical run ourselves. So we're going to do some theaters in New York, some theaters in LA. And then our producer has a link with some theaters in the Midwest. So we're excited about getting it into theaters because I think it's a great movie on the screen. I think it looks great on the screen. I think it's meant to be on the big screen. I think people will still enjoy it on the small screen, but I think it just looks great on the big screen. So we're going to do everything we can to get it out there and to get it seen. And I think it's a hot topic,
Yeah.
Not just with bullying, but I think everybody has that person from their childhood that they look back and go, oh man, I wish I would have said something to that person, whether it's their bully or their parent or their teacher. So I think it's very relatable. And then thinking about, how would I confront that person, without being violent and without running away. And that's really the question that this film poses.
Yeah, I read that on your. We got some great notes from your PR department. I read into that, and I read the story about how you confronted and your friends pushed you to confront. That is, what's the word to say? It's ballsy. It's bold. It's brave because this is a nemesis. People say face your fears, and you did. You stepped it up, face your fear from your younger days, and now it's made you into this great film creator, somebody with a terrific message. So, I mean, you're teaching people, and anybody that watches this, and tell your friends to watch this, and tell your friends to check out the reunion film, because Dave, I just love every second what we're talking about, man. You got the energy, you got me believing. I feel great for it, and I hope Mark does too. It's been absolutely terrific, man.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and you never know when there's going to be a silver lining. The thing that you think might be the worst thing that's ever happened to you can turn out being the best thing that's ever happened to you.
And absolutely, and the sequel, the reunion film part 2, when we show you face your fear and have this great life, you're going to have this broadcast team played by me and Mark. We're available, so you let us know when the film. We're coming out.
Love it. Love it. I think that's a great idea. The sequel, maybe the sequel with my son. I don't have a son, but maybe that'll be the sequel when my son gets bullied, and I can't do anything about it, so I go on this awesome podcast to talk about it.
I love it. I think it sounds terrific.
We promise we won't pee on anything during the movie,
Yeah, you won't be doing anything
not,
in the background unsavory.
No, I'm not pushing Funko Pop either. That goes on. So, the last question I got to ask, we ask a lot of people this. Everybody that comes on the show. The pandemic changed creative minds in a lot of ways. Some people got more active. Some people took it as a time to reflect and lay back. Were you pounding out ideas during that, or was it just kind of like, all right, let me just get life back to normal and then?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of COVID stories. I was really busy making the film. I mean, we were in post-production through all that and trying to do post-production virtually, without really being in person. We did a little bit in person, but most of it was virtual. But yeah, I was writing. I went through a very difficult breakup during COVID. So I started to write kind of like a COVID love story, really just to kind of get it out. But who knows, maybe down the road it's something that I'll pick back up and try to get made. And I wrote probably about 40 or 50 pages of that. And I have another screenplay that I'm writing right now about 2 guys in their 40s that are living off their dad. And the dad, they're literally still living at their dad's place. And they have this big party in the hot tub with like strippers and Coke and all this stuff. And the dad comes back and sees the party and ends up kicking them out. So they end up being homeless in Santa Monica, and they have to kind of get back on their feet. And, so it's basically these 2 trust fund babies that are, in their 40s trying to make it, trying to start all over again.
I like it. Now, hot tub with strippers. You have a name for this movie yet, so I know what to look for?
I've gone from 2 brothers to 99 to 1, kind of the 1% and the 99%. Right now, I'm calling it The Edge. So we'll see.
Like, is it easy to get women to get in movies? You say, "Hey, I'm making movies." The women flock to the
Dude,
cameras.
I don't know if I want to talk about that, man. You know,
You got it. We're good.
you got to be careful what you talk about. I mean, look,
Sure.
it's easy to get a lot. It's easy to get a lot of people into movies. People want to be in movies. People want to be affiliated with movies, whether it's the music or the acting. The hardest thing, though, is to raise the money for the film.
Sure.
That's the hardest thing to do. And I have like 5 friends now that since I made my movie are trying to make their movie. I don't know if they were inspired by me or they're just or just kind of like the stars were aligning. But it's so awesome to see my friends now, and I tell them, get a name. We wanted to make this, me and my buddies, because we wanted to make this for our acting careers, and we wanted to play these parts. And for 10 years, or for the time of since we started this, we wanted to do it ourselves. But it really does help to have a name actor in your film.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm available. I mean,
Awesome.
I'm the host of the Yo Show. Like, what else? Who else could you ask for? Like, I'm here.
I'm gonna talk to them, man. I'm gonna pitch you.
I love it. I would move tomorrow. Well, I got a wife. I can't move tomorrow, but
Bring along.
it's awesome.
Weather's warm.
I like it. She would move out west, absolutely. TheReunionFilm.com is the website. The Reunion Film is the movie, and there's also a Facebook page for The Reunion Film. Check out and get ready, world, to be blown away by the awesome talents of Mr. Dave Rosenberg. Dave, I can't thank you enough for being on the program. We definitely want to invite you back a few months down the line after things hit and you got more ideas, and we'll talk about stuff. Because it's a blast, man. We could seriously do it all night. But you're talking about having a kid. Mark's a new dad, so we're going to talk a little hockey, and then we're going to let him go. But, Dave, thanks for joining us, man. Really a great time.
Oh, man, thanks so much for having me, Jeff. Mark, great to meet you guys.
Great to meet you too, Dave.
Have a
Thanks
great
so
night.
much.
All right, take it easy.
See you later.
Bye.
Dave Rosenberg, ladies and gentlemen, The Reunion Film. Mark, I got to tell you, man, I'm stoked. After talking to Dave and getting the background of the story, reading it and getting to know of it, I'm stoked to see this movie. I definitely want to see it.
Yeah, he seems so passionate about it, and that's the first thing you want. It's some of these people just make a movie trying to turn a profit or something, or just because they feel like they want to do it, or or like you were saying, try ulterior motives of trying to get girls in movies or whatever, But no, he seems like he has a cause, and he wanted to make a great movie about it. He certainly put the time into it. I mean, he said it was 20 years in the making for this thing.
Wow,
so I mean,
that's unbelievable.
that's always really special. Like when somebody puts that much of their time and it's about their life. Like you really want to see. Obviously, it's going to be a good story to tell. So I'm excited.
You're putting yourself out there. My wife tuning in says, "Hey, Mark. Hello, Cassie.
Hey, Cassie, how are
Thank
you?
for tuning in. She's doing good. God bless
Good,
her. And,
good.
everybody loves when I get Mark on the program, of course. Your sister and I are good friends, your brother-in-law, and every time I get Mark on, like, what are you going to talk about? I'm like, well, what do you think? I mean, it's hockey all the way. That's great. And I appreciate you agreeing to do the co-host spot and getting to do interviews. I know you've done it in the past. You've done it with athletes.
Mhm.
So you know what it's all about. And Dave was terrific. Your questions were great. Did a good job of improvising. Asked him the budget was excellent. And he said, there's some things you shouldn't talk about. Me and my big mouth, what are the ladies doing? Because I know the ladies flock to the Yo Show. I apologize to my wife. I wonder how they come after movies.
Yeah, he was a great guest. I mean, you made it super easy for me because I mean he was one of those guys that just was so passionate and just wanted to talk. So it made my job easy.
Absolutely, it gets easy when me and Mark talked beforehand. Mark came in a few minutes early. He's like, "I'm here if you want to just brush up on some stuff." And I said, "Look, you're going to get some of these people are indie. Some of these people are budgeting themselves like David is, and once they start." The passion for it and the love and the backstories, and they thank everybody from when they were 1 year old to 20 years old. They thank everybody and drop names, so it's great. And really, that's why we love doing this, man. And we get to appreciate that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So David Rosenberg, of course, I'm going to leave that rolling down the bottom for a little bit. TheReunionFilm.com and check it out. He's got a Facebook page for it as well. And don't forget, if you get a chance, check out superhappyhealthykids.com because the bullying thing and healthy kids is important. I was told, and you say it out loud, I went to my high school reunion and I was told there was a guy I went to school with. He married a girl we went to school with, and she's like, "Look, you and your buddies were kind of harsh on my husband back in the day, and he never forgets it." And I'm like, "Wow." So I have to kind of apologize. He's like, like he's blowing it off, and I get, you get older, you don't want to admit to it, and I felt bad being that person. If you are that person, don't be that person. Seriously.
Yeah. I know. I feel like we all have kind of stories of being on, sometimes even on both sides of it.
Yeah.
You know, like I wasn't I'm still not a very big guy, you know, but I was a real small kid growing up. And so like nobody picked on me like seriously, because like, what's the point, you know, like picking on the tiny kid, you know? But you know, I would get all the noogies and all that stuff. But, you know, but then there's times you think about like, man, even though I was a little guy, I was verbally abusive to some people, you know, and there's always things you kind of look back on your childhood and be like, oof, you know, I was kind of a jerk. So yeah, it's good that stuff's being brought to light, you know, now. Things were much different when we were kids.
Exactly. And
Like
there was
West.
no, yeah, there's no social media to attack people on. And I can't imagine, honestly, I know people say this a lot, I can't imagine being a school student right now with social media where every little move just gets thrown out there. Like
Yeah.
and I guess we've seen it, you know, we talk about the good and bad of social media. Of course, the story of Urban Meyer, the Jaguars coach, he was out at a club, some young girls dancing near him, and somebody takes a picture. Next thing you know, this guy's in extreme hot water. So you gotta. It also reminds us to kind of watch our steps a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, but when you're a kid, like, you know, just thank God there were no video cameras when like, or on phones when we were kids, because, you know, all the dumb stuff we did. But, you know,
I
think
can
we grew up
guarantee.
at the right time.
Yeah, I can guarantee I wouldn't be married right now.
But you also wonder, like, maybe if that was there, that maybe it would have helped us act not so much like idiots all the time too.
Maybe.
So, I don't know. Door swings both ways.
Now, being a dad, as we mentioned, you
Mm-hmm.
said there's some tough times. Do you? I don't want to say have concern or worry, because that's harsh word. But do you think about, man, what is the future going to be like, and what's going to be out there by the time he's a teenager? Because there's so much now that's just, it moves so fast, and every year we're improving something else. Do you look into that, or you're just like, you know what, let's just raise them the way I was raised, and let's just be decent people?
Yeah, I don't know. We haven't had those like deep talks yet with the wife. Just it's terrifying though. I mean, yeah, just to see like how technology has gone the past, you know, just decade or whatever, like what we were at 10 years ago, and look at now, it's crazy. So who knows in another 10 years, or, you know, when he starts getting out there into the real world, man, it's nuts. Like when we were young, you know, we would just tell mom, like, you know, hey, going out to play for a while, and then we disappear into the night, and then just show up later. And now, like, you know, I hear people like, you know, you can track your kids now, like with GPS stuff, and like there's all kinds of stuff out there now, and I don't know how I feel about that stuff. I think there should be some freedoms in place, but, you know, I don't know. It's all trial and error, I guess.
I agree. And one thing I admire about, we talk about your sister and her husband, CJ, of course, outside, get outside, play, get some exercise. We get caught in the trap of, oh, well, the kids are pacified if they play with the phone, or if they play with the tablet or the laptop, whatever. But you got to get out and play, man. Getting out and playing was the highlight.
Yeah.
Just had to be home by dinner time. By the time that the time the sun started to dip just a little bit, and you had to be in the range to hear your family call you for dinner or else.
That was the great thing. You always knew everybody on your block, like all the kids there. You know, you all play together, and dinner. Gotta run. Street lights are on.
And you would run in, and it became a competition who was going to eat the fastest. And it kind of sucked for me, because most of the neighborhood kids ate at 5 or 6. My father would get home at 7. So we'd be the late eaters. And by the time you look, the lights are out. The baseball game's still going on out front, but you're eating and it's getting darker. And Mom and Dad be like, what's the rush? Where you going? I'm like, outside. No, you're eating and talking to the family, and you get an attitude. You don't want to sit there and talk. Go out and play.
Yeah. Is that more of like a, because I'm Italian too. I mean, is that more of an Italian thing, you think? Like the dinner, like you'd sit and you talk. It's a longer dinner than most, I've kind of noticed.
Absolutely. They talk about, to use some slang, the Irish goodbye and the Italian goodbye. The Irish goodbye is when you just kind of sneak out the back and make your way and nobody knows you left. Where the Italian goodbye is you're hugging and kissing and handshaking and loving relatives, non-relatives. The girl that broke up with your cousin 6 months ago, you're running to her, you're talking, you're hugging. Yeah, man. For me, and as a kid, there was no like mac and cheese or Chef Boyardee. Like my mom made dinner, we ate what she made. There was some nights she made liver, and I'm like, ugh. My father's like, oh, you just don't eat. I'm like,
Yeah.
You cry and you want, like, that's why now people are like, why are you such a macaroni and cheese junkie? Well, as a little kid, I didn't have it. I found it as an adult. It's the greatest freaking invention ever.
I know it is weird how like the certain things you weren't introduced to, they become the things that your life depends on later. I mean, you just find out like, oh my, how did I not have this for the first 20 years of my life?
I'm telling you, man, my parents should introduce me to beer as a kid. Maybe I would have got off it by now. Or like they would have forced you on, like, I don't want beer anymore. Oh man, let's get into it. Let's break it down. Let's break down some hockey. I know it's your John.
All right.
Let's talk about some new faces and new places, new faces in the league. Some guys that you think are really ready to step up. Give us like 3 names of guys to really keep an eye on this year. Because I love when you do this, man, because you pull out names that I didn't even know exist. I thought they were indie drivers, some of the guys you named.
So I mean, do you want the obvious ones, or are we talking, some hidden gems? Where do you want to go with this?
Give us a couple obvious guys and give us one Mark Zimmaro super special hidden gem.
Oof. I don't know if I can do that before all my fantasy hockey drafts are taken care of.
Okay.
Like too many secrets. No, I'm good.
I like that now, but I do that with NFL, so I feel you.
Yeah, no, but I mean, hockey. If you're just a casual watcher, or you're not that much into it. I mean, everybody knows about like Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin. I mean, the guy that's taken over the league the past few years is Connor McDavid.
Yes.
He did something last year that was just, he was on almost a 2-point per game pace, which hasn't been done since, that Wayne Gretzky guy. And he's really, it's crazy that he's also an Edmonton Oiler, Connor McDavid, but
Right.
I don't think anybody thought we were going to see somebody dominate the game again the way some of those guys like Gretzky and Lemieux did back in the day. And McDavid is doing it. He's just such a weird freak of size and skill and speed, mainly. Like he plays the game at such a high pace, and he doesn't slow down with anything he does. And it's like a video cheat game or something. Like it's amazing how he does things. And it's a shame he's stuck in Edmonton because we hardly get to see the guy on the national TV broadcasts. But man, it's just he's the guy now. It's his league. I mean, he's the guy you're going to expect to run away with the scoring title every year now. I mean, he's just that good.
Is there a fear of him leaving Edmonton the way Gretzky did? I know Gretzky's circumstances were a little different, but the way that finances over Canadian teams, is his time there almost over?
I think it's more, it depends on team success there. Let's see, if Edmonton drafted better over the last 10 years, they'd probably have a cup or two. Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm getting at is, Edmonton had all those number 1 overall picks in a row, and most of those guys are gone. Taylor Hall got traded for not much in return. Nail Yakupov was a complete bust. He's over in Russia now playing. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is just a middle of the lineup kind of guy. They only really hit with two guys, and that was McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, who was a 3rd overall pick, I believe. Yeah. So, I mean, there's the 2 guys there, but they really haven't done a good enough job surrounding them with the talent needed to compete for a Stanley Cup. And they haven't had a deep playoff run, except for 1 year they made it to the Western Conference Finals. If they don't, I could see him wanting out of there. could force their hand in a trade if they know he's going to just leave. But, the Gretzky thing was different. That was, as you said, that was a financial thing. The team was really struggling, and they basically sold Gretzky for a couple players, but just a ton of money because they needed it. Things are different now. The Oilers are in decent financial shape like anybody else. So, no, nothing like that. But, yeah, I think it's all going to depend on team success of whether he finishes his career as an Edmonton Oiler. They got to at least make a deep run one of these years, or I could see the frustration start to boil over.
Yeah, a lot of great talent, a lot of great names out of there. And do you think, let's say they keep McDavid, do you think a guy like Draisaitl can bring the kind of maybe picks or talent in return? Is his name that big? Like I said, being in Edmonton, he's kind of hidden. The hockey fan knows he's got amazing talent. Is it enough to bring big packages if they decide to go that route?
Oh, they would get a ton in return for him. But, I mean, at the same time, a guy like that, how do you replace him? I mean, you trade away one of your best players. I mean, he's basically a top 5 player in the NHL. They got 2 of them. So
crazy.
It worked for, you hate to say it, like the Pittsburgh Penguins when they were, with Crosby and Malkin. They were 2 of the best players. They played the same position and they made it work. And I think it's the right way to go to keep those guys together because, I mean, you're probably just not, even though you would get a ton for them, you probably still don't get a fair return for them because it's too much. No team's just going to give away their entire team because that's what the guy's worth. So, I mean, they just need to do a better job drafting as Fran chimed in there. And unfortunately, as we talked about, Philly might not be the greatest destination to go to. Edmonton winters are pretty cold.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a tough place to go.
I would pick up McDavid or Draisaitl in a limo down at the airport and treat them to the best meal Philly had to offer in a heartbeat. That would be amazing. Some young guys in Philly, guys that maybe aren't that young, been around for a few years. And the guy I'm wearing here, it is a little mystery to me, Travis Konechny. Seemed to have fallen off a little bit, and then Provorov seemed to struggle a little bit. Are we developing these kids the right way, or are they just not the kind of talents we think they are? What do you think? Or is it still too young to tell?
Yeah, I mean, for those guys, I think we know what we have in them, in Konechny and Provorov. I think Provorov is still going to pan out to be a very good defenseman. One of my predictions this year is that he's going to be like top 10 in Norris voting, which isn't like a crazy stretch to think of something like that because I did some research and actually Shane Gostisbehere was top 10 twice.
Really?
So we forget how quickly he was. I think he was top 20 twice. He was a top 10 once, maybe top 20 twice. But yeah, we kind of forget about how great of a season he had. And Provorov has all the tools. I just don't think he's going to put up the points that some of these guys to really challenge for a Norris Trophy. But I think he's still a very good top tier defenseman, one of the better ones in the league. And I think the addition of Ryan Ellis coming to the team this year, who's going to play alongside him, is going to really up his game the same way Matt Niskanen did with Provorov a few years ago. So I think we know what we have in him. Travis Konechny, I think we know what we have in him too. I think last year was a little bit of just a blip on the radar sort of thing. Again, short season, it was weird. The 3 seasons before that, he scored 24 goals all 3 seasons in a row. So he's established himself already as a guy that can consistently put about 5 year. I think he's got another gear that he can give us, and I think there was a little friction last year between him and the coaching staff. Hopefully they get that hashed out. But, I think he surpasses the 24 goal plateau he's kind of been at. I think he can push for around 30 goals. He's going to probably play most of the season with Sean Couturier and Claude Giroux. And that's still some pretty high talent he's going to be playing with.
I like it. I like that kind of outlook. I'm a Konechny fan. I got the jersey. I'm a fan. I don't buy a lot of jerseys because you're worried about these guys leaving town like the next year. Last,
I do want to double back on a point you were making though about the drafting and developing, because it was a little concerning, because the news today was that Morgan Frost, who was a former high draft pick, I don't remember if he was a first rounder or early second, but he was everything's laid out for him to come in and make an impact this year, especially with Kevin Hayes being out, that he was going to plug into either the second or third line center, because Nolan Patrick's gone now and they're super thin at center. And apparently the Flyers didn't like what they saw in him so far this preseason, and they've sent him down to the minors. So it's starting to look like some of those years that Hextall was drafting all these guys and we had so much in the pipeline. A lot of these guys have not panned out, and it is starting to become, what do you got?
Hextall. It's got an autograph on it and everything. And classic stuff.
Yeah, I loved him as a player, but man, I'm starting to double think some of the things he did here as a general manager, because
late first.
Fran's saying Frost was a late first. So some of these guys are not panning out. Like German Rubstov was a first round pick for Hextall. He has not cracked the NHL. It is starting to wonder, are they bad at drafting, or are they just not developing these guys correctly? So
I always look at that, and I know hockey there's so many guys, like I said, all over different countries, and it's hard to pinpoint these guys, but a lot of teams find these guys are just tremendous talent. And we get Carter Hart. Is Carter Hart, the next Poe Lindbergh, or is he the next Thomas Sandstrom? Like where we at here?
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about Hart earlier, but I like him. I think he's going to be a solid goaltender here. Last year was a little bit of a blip. I think. I still have a lot of faith in Carter Hart.
It's awesome. I know it's early. Preseason is just pretty much underway. Do you have maybe two teams from each conference you think are solid contenders right now?
Sure. Starting the West, I guess. Still love the Colorado Avalanche. I think they're. What's that? Same.
Oh my God, I love that team.
I really do, and they had their gut check moment last year against the Vegas Golden Knights in the playoffs, and it was weird. The Avalanche dominated early in the playoffs, and then even early in that series, they won the first two games like there were nothing, and then all of a sudden, Vegas kind of just came at them, a little bit of physical, something they weren't prepared for, and the Avalanche pretty much choked. They were up 2-0 in that series, and they didn't even really deserve to win one of the other games. So it all came crashing down. But their main guy, Nathan McKinnon, another one of these top 5 guys in the league, you could tell he took it to heart, and he's one of those guys that's going to drag this team as far as they can go. One of the best top lines in the game with Mikko Rantanen and Gabriel Landeskog, and they have one of the best young defensemen in the game. In fact, when you're asking for one of these, he's not really a secret or anything, but the defenseman, Cale Makar, he's just lightning in a bottle to watch. He's so fun. Spoiler, he was my first round pick in fantasy hockey in my draft last night. I picked towards the end. I had the 9th pick, and our league definitely gives defensemen a little more oomph than most leagues you would play in. So I saw it as a pretty valuable pick there. But he's super exciting, and Flyers could have had him. That's the year they took Nolan Patrick, and right after him, it goes Miro Heiskanen, Cale Makar, and Elias Pettersson. So the Flyers left a lot on the table that year. So love Colorado. Still love Vegas. I think they'll get to the playoffs as much. That's the easiest call there probably is, because the Pacific Division is a little bit weak. So they're pretty much a shoo-in to finish either first or second in that division. They bring back a really talented team. They do lose Marc-Andre Fleury, who was the Vezina winner, and then they said goodbye to him, which is one of the weirdest things ever. But they got a good goalie in Robin Leonard. So they'll be there in the end. So I like those two. I don't think it's any shock that they're probably, I would say they're the two best teams in the West. East is a little harder to figure out. You got the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champs in Tampa, but you wonder just like how much hockey they've played in the last 2 years is really going to affect them, especially with these condensed seasons that they've had. And now you got the Olympic break, and they're going to probably send half their team to the Olympics because they're so darn talented. I don't know. I can't imagine a team in this era could actually three-peat. So it's going to be tough to really see Tampa getting back there again. Toronto has been chokers in the past, but gosh, I really like the makeup of that team, and they're my pick in the East right now. I know I feel like if they do finally get over that hump of the first round, they're going to take off and make it to the Stanley Cup final. So kind of hanging my hat on those two teams, even though they're in the Atlantic Division. The Metro where the Flyers live, it just seems like the biggest crapshoot ever. I mean, I could see the Flyers finishing anywhere from 1st to 6th. I mean, really, they're all just right there. Like Washington and Pittsburgh keep getting older. They're starting to come back to the pack a little bit. Then you got the Islanders that are just kind of that team that just knows how to win. So they're there. And then the Rangers and Carolina are on the way up. And I don't know. It's anybody's game. You could probably even throw New Jersey into that mix almost at this point. There's Fram on his Islanders.
It's funny. It seems to be with all sports, like Philly is in those divisions, like the NFC East with the Eagles and the Cowboys. It's a mess. And National League East with the Braves and the Phillies and the Mets. It's all like a mess. It's something about East Coast, like right on the East Coast, man. Right, I think like traveling to tropical places for playoffs and championships is just too much for these East Coast guys.
We're comfortable here. We'll just stick around. Yeah.
Do you want to give me a very early Stanley Cup champ and maybe bring it back come playoff preview time? Or
yeah, you know what? I haven't really thought about too much who might win it all, because it's weird. Like, the predictions you were kind of asking for, who the best regular season teams, and that's one thing. And then the playoffs, the last couple of years you've had these teams like come out of nowhere, like the Canadians last year and Dallas the year before, that almost pulled it off. Got hot and got to the Stanley Cup final and ended up losing. I'm gonna stick with Colorado. It's the chalk pick right now. They're the Vegas favorite to win. But again, I really like their makeup. I think they do have what it takes to get over the hump. I would say, I'll go out on a limb and say that Toronto gets to the final. So yeah, let's go Colorado and Toronto, and that would be an amazing series to watch, because they're just two offensive juggernauts.
I agree. I love, like you said, and you put it best, you love the makeup of the teams. I do too. A lot of talent. And both of them, the Avalanche more than the Maple Leafs, remind you of those teams from the 80s and 90s. A lot of speed, a lot of great puck movement. And, not like the modern era, it's all about who can hit the guys the hardest. But that's what I think hockey needs. I think we need to see the finesse teams, the speed teams, come out on top and win the cup and give people something great to watch. For my money, and I may be wrong, and you can correct me because it's your thing, the Lightning to me are kind of a nice mix of speed, talent, and size, but there's still more size there. There's still a little more of the modern game than the past game. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And the thing that Tampa has that, probably has set them apart the last few years is they got the goaltender. Andrei Vasilevsky's just that good. And it's almost like you forget about him when you think of Kucherov and Braden Point and Victor Hedman. Steven Stamkos is almost a forgotten guy at this point too. Like,
amazing.
In his career. So, and then you're just like, oh, and they also have like the best goalie. And playoff time, that really comes up big. I mean, he outdueled Carey Price in the Stanley Cup final. That's why you win Stanley Cups, and that's what kind of keeps me like from going all in on the Colorado Avalanche. Is they don't have Patrick Waugh anymore.
Right.
That's the one thing that makes me a little bit hesitant.
That's what made me hate them back then. The Patrick Waugh and the final run of Ray Bourque. Like, hey, let's put him on Colorado so the poor guy can win a cup. And even though I was always a big Joe Sakic guy, I just never liked that team. But I like the makeup of them now. I root for those guys. And like you said, when Philly's out, you need somebody, and I ride the Avalanche. And then I guess the early 2000s maybe it was, when Edmonton had a bunch of young guys, and they kept pulling off these great playoff upsets. Like they would play Dallas and pull off these great upsets. I like youthful speed teams with a lot of great puck movement. To me, that's still hockey.
Yeah, and there's some teams that are kind of in that range to watch. That I know they don't draw a whole lot of attention, but like the Florida Panthers can be a really fun team to watch because
a lot of good names there too. Yeah.
Yeah, guys like Jonathan Huberdeau, like he's so vastly underrated. He's such a good player and just gets no recognition for being there. And the Carolina Hurricanes can be a real fun team to watch. We hate them, but the New York Rangers could be a really fun team to watch this year. I mean, with Panarin and Zibanejad and Adam Fox, who won the Norris last year, they like to run and gun too. So they'll give up chances the other way. So they're just fun teams. Yeah, because I mean, Franz Barkov. He's been that guy that's been like underrated for so many years that he's almost like overrated now. Like everybody knows how good he is. But I agree. I mean, Barkov's one of the best in the game too. But yeah, there's I have my certain favorites that I like to watch. Because I stream games from all over, and I just can't watch boring Flyers hockey all the time. I go other directions sometimes. So.
Boring Flyers hockey. The opinions of Mark Zimmaro do not reflect the opinions of the Osho and its affiliates.
Let's face it, the last few weeks, maybe in the last month or so, the Flyers season last year was unwatchable. I mean, they were out of the playoffs, and it was just like, oh God, can we just put a fork in the season?
And it gets funny because me and my brother always he likes to harp on me when the local teams are out of contention. Like, he would text me every night, like, how are your Phillies doing? And last year he was, your Flyers. How's your Flyers? You're watching your Flyers? And I'm watching it, watching the season unfold. And I'm like, no. Well, I am, but it's tough. It's a little heartbreaking. We invest a lot of love in it. And, especially now, I don't want to say your life has changed, but your life has changed. You're married, baby. So it's not always going to be, I got that time to just sit and watch the game. So when you find the time and invest it, they better play some good goddamn hockey.
Yeah. Or when you pay several $100s to go to a game, and pay the parking and the concessions and everything else that goes along with it, man. It's a huge investment to go to a Flyers game because it's just not cheap. Like, you can sometimes find some tickets on the secondary market, but I mean, it is a lot of money to go to those games. And then when they throw up just one of those stinker games, that's why people throw stuff on the ice, and you can kind of you can sympathize with them a bit almost at that point, and the boos and the yelling shoot on the power play, it's annoying, but it comes from frustration from people, and you can kind of understand why they do it.
Sure. I remember back in the day before I met my wife, there was a girl I wanted to take out on a date, and she's like, yeah, whenever you want to go do something, let's do something. So I go and buy these outstanding Flyers tickets, first row, behind the glass. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it up. I go down, I'm excited, and it was 4-0, and it wasn't even that close. They played so goddamn bad. In the second period, she's like, this is nice and all, but you want to go to the bar? I guess get the hell out of here. Go to the bar.
Yeah. But on the flip side of that, sometimes you catch something amazing at these games. I mean, I remember I went to a game with my buddy Chris Ginger, we call him Frenchie.
Yes, absolutely, sure.
We caught a game. It was years ago. They played the Winnipeg Jets, and they actually lost the game, but it was 9-8. And it's
Wow.
like you'll never forget that game, like
Sure.
just all the crazy stuff that happened. Or there was a game I went to years ago with my buddy Dan, and they beat the Penguins like 8-2, and two different guys on the Flyers had hat tricks. Like it
Wow.
was, it's the stuff you remember forever. And
Sure.
I've been vocal about this before. Jeff, you're a very close friend of my family. My dad passed away last year. That was always our thing. We went to games, and when the Flyers did something special, that's what we talked about at Thanksgiving and Christmas and all that stuff. Like, oh man, remember when Giroux scored that goal from that angle, and it's just they're the memories that you have for a lifetime. So that's the time when it's worth the hundreds of dollars. But,
Absolutely. You can't put a
yeah,
price
then
on it.
you never know what you're going to get, and that's what makes it so fun, I guess.
Agreed. And same thing with my family. Like, you talk about the way father and son bond. Me and my father talk sports first and foremost. Like, not how was your day, or what do you think about the
Mhm.
Birds this week, or what do you think about the Phils? And we had season tickets for years to Phillies, and we bonded. My father, when the Sixers sucked, when they sucked, he watched every single game. And I would go over some nights. I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" He's like, watch this kid here. This 33. This guy's got something." It was some turd, who scored 8 points. My dad's, "This guy, he's the best player on the team, who won 10 games all year." But it's a great bonding point. And, if I don't say it enough, your family, love your dad, great person. Your mom, terrific. Just a great family all around. That's why I love having you on. It's all about class and great delivery, and you take it seriously the way I take it seriously. And I know your love for the sport. And, I try to get people like, "Hey, want to do football preview?" Like, well, I don't know what to talk about. You know what to do, man. You deliver it. You bring it. You bring the names. You bring the teams. 2 years in a row now, you've won the You picked the champion. You picked the goddamn St. Louis Blues to win the Stanley Cup before the playoffs started. I still will never forget that as long as I live. If there's any big publication watching, and they can get a hand on ESPN, get this guy on your show.
Yeah, I don't know. That St. Louis thing, that was a crazy hunch there. That was just like an example of a team that just caught fire. It
Yeah.
was the funny story with that was it all went back to like the South Philly Mummers Bar, and they played Gloria that night on the thing, and they made that their song, and then it took off. They beat the Flyers, of course, to go on this like big winning streak, and away it went. And now that song just has probably a place in St. Louis fans' lives the rest of their life, whether they like it or not.
Jesus. I know, right?
But yeah,
It's unbelievable.
that's how it can. That's why I love hockey so much, though. It's because you just get in the playoffs, and then you can find a way to scratch your way, like the Flyers did in 2010. Was it the last game of the season? They won that shootout and got into the playoffs, and then found themselves in Game 6 of the Stanley Cup. Like they got that close. Whereas like basketball, you get in with an 8 seed, you're just toast.
Yeah,
You're not
toast.
beating the top teams unless like
And
everybody gets injured.
Right. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, what a great year for basketball. Phoenix and Milwaukee, 2 new teams." Yeah, but they have built themselves for years to be this product. And you see they're a cut above everybody else. It wasn't that big a surprise. But to see a team like St. Louis, especially winning it all these years, and you said you're like, "This is the year." I really think St. Louis finally ends its round. I'm like, I think I wrote down. I got to find the paper somewhere. I'm pretty sure I like crossed it out.
Well, they were that team that was like the chokers for all those years too.
Yeah.
That's where Toronto's at. That's where I'm thinking they're gonna get there sooner or later. We saw the Cubs win a World Series and the Red Sox win a World Series in our lifetime. It's time for Toronto. Hasn't won one since 1967. That's I guess it's the longest in the league now.
Wow. Do they have the goaltending to win the Stanley Cup? That's always been my question. I know their talent. I know a lot of the names. The goaltending to me doesn't seem elite enough to win a Stanley Cup. I could be wrong.
It's in question. They got rid of Freddie Anderson, who had been there for the last several years and always had a good regular season. Couldn't get the job done in the playoffs, so they switched to Jack Campbell, who played last year, and it wasn't his fault really that they lost. So I like Campbell. I think he could get them there. Looked like Fran just agreed too.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, I mean, he's a little bit unproven, but he's one of those guys that was drafted pretty high, and he's high caliber goalie. So yeah, I think he can. I think Toronto last year, I think they would have made a longer run if John Tavares didn't get hurt in that first game. So he had this gruesome leg injury that I think just, stopped the team in their tracks. And, I can't imagine what that does to a team when you see the captain of your team go down with a gruesome injury right before you. And, you just feel lost at that point. And I think it just, took the wind out of their sails a little bit, to use a little cliche.
Yeah, I mean, it takes me back, and it's a memory that's in my head forever. And I think I was at your family's house when it happened, when Lindros got laid out by Scott Stevens.
Yep.
That game was over. That series
Yep.
was over. There was no coming back from that. I mean, he finally gets back on the ice. He's laid out within moments, and you're like, that's it. Like the balloon has popped, and you felt it. You felt it right in your gut. Because
you start thinking about it like, well, even if we win this game, then we got to play the cup final without the best player in the league. Like, you knew at that point he wasn't going to come back from another concussion, because he had just come back from one too. Not to cut these wounds open again, but man, I remember this like it was yesterday. He comes back for Game 6 and scores the only goal in a 2-1 loss, and then Game 7 he's out there flying, and then Scott Stevens.
There are some wounds, man. I will forever hate Scott Stevens. I played that video for anybody who wants to, dispute the illegal hit. You see it. I mean,
the even worse one was the one he did on Paul Correa. That was just.
Oh yeah.
That was gross what he did to him. I mean, the puck was gone. He takes Correa's skating up, takes 4 strides, and then Stevens comes across with the elbow. That was even worse than the Lindros one.
And it hurts because even football, some of the Hall of Fame football guys, offensive linemen, you always hear about how dirty they were, eye gouging and all that shit. And you have it now with some of the best defensemen in the history of hockey. To me, Scott Stevens does not belong in the Hall of Fame. I think the guy was the dirtiest cheap shot artist in the league. I couldn't stand the sight of his face. Even if he signed here, I think I would have still hated him. Maybe.
Yeah, it's tough because the rules were a little bit different then. Yeah. So, I mean, you look at it now and be like, oh my God, look what this guy was doing out there. But a lot of it was illegal at the time. And, what he did to Lindros, it was dirty, but it was within the rules, and that's what sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't do it anymore. You target a head like that or whatever, that you're done. But back then it was allowed, and that's how you played the game, and that's why he won 3 Stanley Cups.
It hurts.
Sucks.
The fact that Jersey, no offense to Jersey people, screw Jersey people. The fact that Jersey people have all these championships in any sport is a little nauseating.
Yeah, I know. We've always been New York's little brother or whatever. Because I grew up watching the Giants win Super Bowls and the Yankees win World Series, and to switch to baseball a little bit, I saw somewhere that the Phillies, they haven't made the playoffs since 2011, I guess.
Yes.
So 10 years. It's I think it's the second longest streak in baseball, or first. I think Seattle was first, but they were they still had a chance to make the playoffs when I saw this stat. But yeah, the Phillies have one of the longest droughts now, and that it feels like they just won a World Series. And
I know. I mean, I still remember a World fucking Series it was yesterday, and it was a long time. I mean, you look back, and I look at my man cave and some of the trinkets, and Chase Utley, and I got that Brad Lidge, the Sunday jersey, World Series jersey. I'm looking at the patch. I'm like, 2008?
Yeah.
Wow, man.
I know.
Everybody's going from that.
It's amazing though, because I remember watching that World Series, and I'm 43 now, so I hadn't really seen the city win the championship. I was 5 years old when the Sixers won in '83. I wasn't really old enough to remember anything.
Yeah.
So, I'm just thinking like I believed in the curse that like no team from Philadelphia is ever going to win a championship. It just doesn't happen here. So I remember thinking like, maybe I said it out loud, but I said like, man, if the Phillies can just win this World Series, they could like suck for like the next 10 years and I won't care. And it happened.
I was gonna say that that held up well, as they say.
Yeah, they were good like the next couple of years, but then the 10 years happened. So I think we're at the 10-year point now where they've sucked for 10 years.
And I mean, the Eagles are the worst. Like, we waited our whole lives for the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. And now they did it, and you saw how the city reacted, and they embraced it, made love to it. And it was something that went on for years. Now they're just a horrible product again. Like, damn, here we are again. We had a little ride at the top of the mountain briefly, and here we are again.
I know. And you look, football's weird because, like, the teams change so quickly. Like, I mean, who's left from that Super Bowl team? There's a couple guys, like, not much.
Brandon Graham, maybe, and Lane Johnson. There's not much.
Yeah, there's a couple linemen. I guess Cox was here. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not too many of them though. That was what, like 4 years ago or something.
Yeah. Oh, Kelsey, of course. Kelsey was the famous.
Yeah.
No one likes us. We don't care. But yeah, that fast, and free agency changes it, and money changes it, and the desire to be the main man changes it, and everybody says, I give Brandon Graham a lot of credit for staying here. Where else is he really going to go? We're paying him a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
So where else is he really going?
Yeah, it wasn't until recently that he actually got pretty good. He struggled for a long time.
The strip sack pretty much saved his entire career in this city, because every time I heard that guy's name, like, for the love of God, he's still on the team, but
yeah. And now it's like, all right. Well, until he got hurt this year, but yeah, he was one of their better players. Crazy.
I'm gonna twist subject a little bit.
Sure.
We're doing a lot of sports, which I love, hockey, which I love. But normally I have female co-hosts. Tonight I got a male co-host. I gotta ask you about Britney Spears, and I love talking about her because I absolutely just adore her. But that picture, of course, if you haven't seen it, the one on Instagram with her butt, and then she had one a couple days ago with the boobs out and the butt out, just covered by little flower things.
I did see those on your recommendation.
Yeah, I let the whole world know, and I got a lot of thumbs up from people on my messenger, male and female. So you're welcome. But like the price of fame like that, is she really off her rocker? A lot of people say she'll never perform again. Do you think she should be totally free from anybody? Keep an eye on her funding. Like, to me, I think she's lost it.
I mean, she may have, but I mean, I don't see why she shouldn't have her own money. I mean, she made that money. She's an adult, I don't know all the ins and outs of what was going on with that. To rehash, like her dad was in control of her money.
Yeah, dad, right, was in control pretty much of everything. And from what the stories got out to be, like her Instagram is more or less subliminal messages and cries for help, which, yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
Now she's engaged, and now she's supposedly is free, but her freedom has seemed to really, she's taken freedom to a whole new level.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure she's not the first person to go on Instagram and, pose nude or whatever. Just that could be a cry for help in some way too. But yeah, I don't know. I guess what the question was about, should she be in control of her money? I think she should. I don't care how crazy you act. I mean, it'd be different if she like inherited a bunch of money from somewhere else or something. But she made that money fair and square by being a music talent and touring and putting in the hard work and everything like that. So if she wants to blow it, on whatever, that's her thing.
She can blow on me. I'll take some of that money. I still love her. I still think she's adorable. She's just a train wreck, but and the story I was
What's
reading.
Kevin Federline up to these days? Is he still around?
I think he's doing the Super Bowl this year, isn't he? Oh my good gracious. That gets me. The Super Bowl this year, it's, I don't know if you've seen it. It's an all-rap lineup for the halftime show. It's Eminem, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Mary J. Blige, Kendrick Lamar. And a lot of people are saying this is like a massive performance. But I don't want to say this the wrong way because I get a lot of boo hiss for saying this. I was always a fan of the legendary rock bands taking stage. Do you think people are going to lock into an all-rap halftime show? They got to clean it up a lot. Let's face it, a lot of their best lyrics are sketchy stuff and dirty stuff, and that's what you repeat. Do you think it cuts it as a Super Bowl halftime show?
I think so. I think they're big enough names. I mean, yeah, like you, I enjoyed some of the rock bands. I think like Prince had one of the best ones I'd seen. Yeah. It was one of the best ones I'd seen, and I'm not like a huge fan. Like, I enjoy her music, but when Beyonce did it, I thought she was great. So, I mean, that there you were, like, big name. I think, I think they carry enough weight where it'll be a good halftime show. I
hope so.
Yeah, the Weeknd did it last year, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it was weird. It was definitely weird.
Very weird. I mean, the year before that, I don't remember because I fainted when J-Lo and Shakira came out together. Pretty sure I fainted, especially when they both started ass shaking. So
yeah,
I heard it was good. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't think of really any like real bad ones. What do you think was like is there a recent bad one you can think of? I don't know.
Honestly, and no disrespect to fans of The Weeknd or The Weeknd, but I just thought that was too bizarre. Katy Perry's didn't do much for me either. I thought that was a little too odd. And I adore her, but I thought that was odd.
Yeah, they try to get a little too cute with stuff and put too much of a opening ceremonies Olympics type fiesta going on, and like you gotta kind of scale it down a little bit. It's only like 15 minutes or something. Like, right. Just let's go sing a couple of your good songs and be done.
Right, exactly. Like, thank you for coming out and playing the good stuff. Everybody goes back to the Janet Jackson nip slip, but I've seen a recent picture of Janet Jackson, so that's no longer on my list.
Yeah, I mean that's I couldn't tell you anything about the performance other than that happened, and then
exactly.
That changed the world apparently with the FCC, that I remember that got like Howard Stern kicked off the air basically, because they started paying attention to more stuff. So yeah, it was weird.
Everybody says what happens today when the FCC starts regulating like podcasts and webcasts. I guess I'm done because my mouth says some stupid things, but it's all good fun. We don't harp. We don't do the politics or the race wars or none of that stuff. We just come here to have fun. We come here to entertain. During the pandemic, we got so many views, like the thousands and thousands of people and a lot of great letters. We still get people in the hundreds that tune in between live and the replays, which is great. But it's so tough entertaining right now. It's tough saying anything to anybody about anything because everybody's just out to fine-tooth comb your words.
Oh yeah, it's a sensitive world we live in now. People just want to pick apart anything you say, and it's weird. Like working in media, you could write something, you just think you don't think about every single line that you write. You just kind of it flows out, and then somebody will pick apart something and be like, "No, you're reading way too into that."
Right, exactly.
It was just. Had nothing to do with what you're trying to say that meant. No.
And you follow I'm a big fantasy football fan, and there's pages on Facebook for fantasy football people, and you make a comment, and people are like, "Well, who the hell are you? What's your pedigree? What makes you?" No, dude, I'm guessing. I'm guessing a certain running back's going to get X amount of yards playing a bad team. I'm no expert.
Yeah, it's hard to decipher who is experts anymore. When you read stuff, especially on Twitter, where with even just taking it back to Flyers coverage, you just see people tweeting stuff out, acting like they're reporters, and then you got to check their bio and do you cover the team? And it's well, they have a website, but then you read a story on the website, and you're oh, this is not grammatically correct most of the stuff they're writing, and like who's editing this, and like are
Right.
they credentialed, and like you go down these wormholes of trying to just figure out the person's credibility, and you're like, what was I even here for in the first place?
I've gotten hate mail in the past. I used to write fantasy football articles for a friend of mine's webpage, and
Mhm.
I got a lot of thank yous. Some people said, "Hey, your advice was great," and I worked it, I used it. And one guy was like, "Look, man, I don't know who you think you are. I used your advice. This guy sucked this week, and that guy." I'm like, "Wow, man! Like, I'm the weatherman. I'm just looking out the window and saying, chance of this."
Yeah, it cracks me up when people, because sports betting is such the big thing now, and people post like, oh, I went like 6-4 this week in football games or whatever, and then you look at like the odds or whatever. I'm like, you basically could have just flipped the coin and it would have
Right.
looked out the same way. Like, you're posting that you won these like minus 170 games or something, and
Yeah.
come
You never
on.
see it. You never see anybody post the losses like, "Oh, bad day," and post the losing bets. Always the winning
Yeah.
bets.
Only when they win. Yep.
It's a wealthy country we live in. These son of
Yeah.
bitches winning every game every week.
It's crazy though how prevalent sports betting is now. It's just
Yeah.
they made it so easy that like everybody does it. It's nuts.
Give me on the subject. Nice segue. Give me one, and I mean just one. So it could be very obvious. Give me one NHL bet to put my money on this year. Anything. One thing.
Oof.
Who scores what? Who plays what? Anything. Give me one thing that, because I'm going to listen to you and invest in this and bash you in a couple months if it doesn't come true.
I mean, you want something with half decent odds on it, not that like the Arizona Coyotes are not going to make the playoffs, sort of
Well,
thing. Like,
it's not bad though.
yeah, you're getting like
Until they hoist the cup, and I'm like, what the fuck?
yeah, you're getting 1 to 10 odds on it or something. Geez. I don't know. I was looking at some of like the point totals of the team, like the future bets. I look at those, and I had some teams that I'd have to have the line in front of me. I'll see if I can pull them up and do this while we're talking. But betting like the over or the under of their points. The Flyers are like right at like 93 or something, 94 points, which is like that's what gets you in the playoffs. So it's really just bet whether they're going to get in the playoffs or not. Don't mess with that.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of a team that like I don't jive with like most of the experts do, and I was thinking maybe like the Boston Bruins. I don't think they're going to have as good of a season as they've traditionally done, or that might be it depends where the line is on that. If it's like 104, 105, like I would take like an under on them. I don't know. I just don't think they're as strong as they've been, and they seem to get nicked up pretty good and can't recover from it. So
Age has got to catch up eventually, and teams like that. I'd be happy to see a team like that go away. It's like outside of the Penguins, probably my second most hated team. So I'm alright with that.
yeah, well, that was so annoying when like the city of Boston was just winning everything. Like the Patriots, the Celtics, the Red Sox, the Bruins, they were just all winning at the same time, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
I
want to see some of that here.
guess if I was to pick a team that maybe pick an over on, I kind of like the Winnipeg Jets. I think they were at like 92 points or so. Just trying to bring up the. Let's see.
Wherever would you find such lines in this world we live in? There's about like 40
Yeah, I know.
websites you can buy.
Of course, the one site I bring up is like crashing my computer.
Well, sites with naked ladies on is not going to help me pick hockey.
Let's see if I can get to something here.
I'm trying to find something too, and I'm just so bad at this.
Futures.
People watch this show and assume I'm very internet savvy. This is all held together with bubblegum, folks.
Let's see. They got the Boston Bruins at it's 101, so it's a little lower than what I thought. So I don't know. That's a tougher play. If it was like 104 or 105, I would say definitely under, but that's a little tougher. Where do they have the Rangers at? So they got the Rangers at 96.5, and that means they would definitely make the playoffs. And I don't see them making the playoffs, so I would take under on the Rangers.
Just want to make you aware.
Exciting.
I'm writing this down.
What's that?
So you do realize I'm writing these down because it's not like I got money to burn a hole in my pocket, but I love dropping things like early season, couple bucks.
Yeah, I've kind of planned on going in there and probably throwing more than I should on not like big money amounts, but just making too many bets where I just like even out anyway. Just
Yeah. I do it like every Sunday. I bet so many different things. And I'm in like 5 fantasy football leagues, and I bet all these games, and you're always picking pools and suicides. And by the end of the season, you look at your checkbook and like, I'm up $6.
Yeah, all that work and stress, and I'm no better off for it.
It happened in 1 year. I won a fantasy football championship a couple years ago, and my wife said, "That's great. How much did you win?" I'm like, "Well, let me see. I was in this league for 100, this league for 2, this league for 2, 100 here. Made my moves. Suicide left 50. I'm ahead $60." She's like, $60 for all that? Yeah, man. It's like a prostitute trying to grab a weenie with a broken hand, man. It's too much work for a little bit of money, I'm telling you. But this has been awesome, man. I know you mentioned time restraint, and I don't want to keep you too long. I know you got a child and a great wife there. Say hi to Jill for me, of course. Hello to the little one and your family. It's been a great night tonight. A humongous thanks to David Rosenberg. The movie is reunionfilm.com. It's still rolling on the bottom of my screen here. What the heck did I just do? Oh. Again, technology, man. So I got to line this song up for the end of the show, and that's always like the hardest part. Because you got to share screen, all that good stuff. You can catch Mark's articles. Mark, you want to give us some spots where people can find some of your stuff, some of your writing?
Yeah, I mean, if you're into the Flyers coverage, I took a few weeks off over the last month or so to kind of recharge the batteries to head into the season, but you can find it at southphillyreview.com. Usually they run it on the Northeast Times website too, so northeasttimes.com. And if you're interested in other writings and just South Philly type stuff, for sometimes we do some movie producers like Dave that we had on tonight, fun stories like that. I had actually a really fun story on Eleanor Kerrigan, who is a comedian from South Philly. Used to be engaged to Andrew Dice Clay, I found out. It's kind of weird. But yeah, she had an interesting story how she grew up in South Philly and, went to over to the West Coast and just was like waiting tables at the Comedy Store, and then like didn't even really want to get into comedy, and like Dice made her just like kind of go up on stage, and here she is, like 15 years later, she's like one of the best comics around.
That's wild.
She was on your favorite podcast, by the way, Jeff. She was on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah, we love ourselves some Joe Rogan around here.
Yeah, so I got it. I talked to her right after she was on Joe Rogan. So obviously my story is going to bring her way more ticket sales to her upcoming shows than Joe Rogan could have done.
I need somebody who has been on Rogan. It's a goal. I had somebody on, I can't remember, it's a little while back, who said that they got on our show before Rogan, and it floored me. And another person I remember who gets great views is Jennifer Taylor. Of course, she was on 2.5 Men, played Chelsea. And when I reached out to her PR people, I just always loved her as an actress, and I loved the Chelsea character. And her PR guy's like, she does not do any interviews. I'm like, wow. He's like, well, let me try. And he's like, I don't believe this. She'll be on your show. He said that. I'm like, wow. So apparently her doing interviews are rare, and she's been with us twice, and she's terrific, so we love that. So, Mark, you're going to drop the word to the former Dice Clay fiance. We'd love to have her on here, man. beat her up a little more than Rogan. But Mark, again, I want to thank you so much for coming on. Yo 2.0 comes at you Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock. Great guests, great special co-hosts like Mark. NHL season's right around the corner, folks. Go lay your money on the Colorado Avalanche and the Toronto Maple Leafs to make the Stanley Cup. If it doesn't, don't message Mark.
Yeah, just Monopoly money. Just do that.
Right. Use your Monopoly money. Unless you got better research than we do. Mark is not affiliated with DraftKings, or what's the other one? FanDuel.
Yeah.
And once again, big thanks to David Rosenberg. Next week on the program, I got to give a shout out to this young lady. Next week on Yo 2.0 on Wednesday night, Mark, I'm doing something I'm so geeked about I can't even stand it. The Guinness Book of World Record holder for Funko Pops, Paul Scardino, is going to be here. We're going to see his collection. We're going to talk about Funko Pops. And I got a very special guest co-host, she's yours truly, Joe, on Instagram. And she's a big Twitch gamer as well. And she's like, dude, you mind giving me a little plug? Then I'm like, now I'm going to shout you out. That's Paul, of course, on the right in that giant Funko Pop collection. That's next week on Yo 2.0. Can't wait. And Mark, I'd like to invite you back to guest host again sometime soon. What do you think?
I would love that.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Sounds great. Again, check us out. Tuesday nights, it's the Yo Show, myself and Joel Tatey. Wednesday nights, Yo 2.0, giving you a little bit of fun in your late night eating. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We're going to take you out with The Catalyst by St. Ricketts that I just removed by accident, and I got to load it all over again. I'm the freaking I swear to God, I'm the worst at this. There it is. Okay, at www.stricketts.com. We'll see everybody real soon. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Thank you.
Mark, have a good night, mate.
You too, buddy.
Whoops, forgot to turn the volume up. There we go.
Introduce yourself. You're doing a fire. You have all the reason to begin again. Honor this desire. Hear the call, coiling the wire. You have all the reason to begin again. Honor this desire. Understand